Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Digital Marketing Podcast. With me, as always, Alex. Alex, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Rocco. How are you?
I'm good, Alex. I'm good. And I wanted to clarify one thing before we get started. Despite this being an episode on AI, we are not AI generated. It's actually us doing the episode today. We never know what happens in today's world. Just yesterday, I was on Instagram and I got one of those reels. They're actually doing customer service calls with the AI nowadays. And this guy was having a full-blown conversation with somebody trying to sell him a Tesla. I was like shocked. It was pretty good.
It's beautiful. I saw H&M got a huge spike in sort of brand traffic with the help of basically bots and AI.
Oh, it
And
is incredible where this is getting to. But one thing that I think is very interesting is there are a lot of misconceptions about AI. For example, the people believe that AI does everything for you, right? But in reality, AI does cannot do much unless there is somebody smart behind it, right? Like AI needs proper input, but AI does save you a lot of time. I know today we're going to talk about predictive AI, which you are like an expert at and have been spending a lot of time in it. But before getting there, I just wanted to like take a step back and look at about the meaning of AI, right? We were talking right before this call about the importance of the quality of data that you provide these tools. What has been your experience, Alex, when it comes to providing good data to AI? Uh, how did you get started on that? Like, what's your approach to all of these tools that nowadays do make our job easier, but at the same time, they do make our job also more competitive?
I mean, I guess digital marketing, and particularly paid, has always required you to start with numbers and critical thinking. And therefore, you need to test, experiment, and really validate where the data is coming from. And you shouldn't believe that this is it because it says so. So I guess it's sort of been something that I've taken with my entire career, that is, I think, now spanning over 2 decades or so. um, so when AI came, I had a similar sort of sense to it. I was a bit hesitant. I was standing a bit on the sidelines, to admit, initially, to sort of see where are things turning. There's a lot of hype around it, but what is really the hype, and how can this be used? Um, and therefore, I think, how should I say? I'm leaning more towards predictive AI for a lot of um, the real business decisions. And then I would say that more generative type of AI, say ChatGPT and the likes, helps almost like a good brainstorm. It shakes the tree, but I definitely do not sort of buy what I'm getting the first time, the second time, or even the last time. I go out and validate things.
Yeah,
Um,
I just feel, Alex, that uh, I feel like taking a step back 100 years, right, if not more. Whenever cars were introduced in the market, there were people that were saying that cars wouldn't last long because horses are more reliable, right? I just feel with the AI, it's like the same thing. It's not something that you can decide whether you want to use or experience it. I feel that if you do not understand how to use AI, you're gonna be left like with a competitive disadvantage, no matter how you look at it.
No, of course. And funny that you mentioned the cars. Henry Ford actually used data science to sort of how sort of he ramped things up already back then. So early adapter of predictive AI, less data points. But of course, it saves time, and there are certain things that one should sort of use it for. And I think today you can, in most sort of repetitive process tasks, sort of implement, probably say maybe 40% or so.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's an incredible value in terms of time saving. But I think also though that we live in a world, once you start adding, customer service, you start adding these customer relationship sort of communications into a generative type of AI engine, you're starting to get into slippery slope because you're all of a sudden not really valuing those relationships.
Yeah,
And
I feel Alex, right? I was talking to a few colleagues of mine last week, and they were like, "Oh, the AI is gonna kill a lot of jobs." And I had a different point of view because you have been doing marketing for longer than I have. I've been 13 years. You probably done it for close to 20 now, right? Like you've been in the market.
about 20. I mean, I've been sort of on the orderer side for about 20 years, and then 3 years running my own show.
Yeah, exactly. So we are talking about like 23 years of experience, right? 10 years more than me. And me, in 13 years, I've seen a lot of people that shouldn't be marketers that do this job. And you probably have seen a lot more than me in 23 years, right? And I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in a way that when you are a client and you do not know, particularly when you are a smaller client, who to trust, you might end up investing a lot of resources in some people that cannot provide good work. With the introduction of AI, that is going to allow people like yourself and actually myself as well to be able to handle more clients, because a lot of the repetitive tasks that really do not take that much quote unquote brain to do, to be done more effectively, giving more time to strategic thinking for clients. So what my answer was to these colleagues of mine was that AI is actually gonna force the marketing world to develop better skills if you want to quote unquote survive in this market, right? Because you got to be better, you got to produce better results, and all the elements that are usually time consuming both for small and big agencies are going to be optimized. Do you think this is something that is correct? Do you think that this is going to make the quality of the work involved in marketing necessarily better because you're either very good at strategic thinking, or the clients that would have gone to uh, lower skilled marketers now have the opportunity to work with better people?
I mean, it's complex though. I think the level where we're coming from is pretty low in general in terms of marketing, as you started off with. And I think no matter what, you still need to know where you want to steer the boat,
Yeah.
meaning the strategic side. But if you don't know where you're steering the boat, it can actually go very wrong. I think something that we sort of witnessed over the last couple of months is PMax, or Google Analytics, Google Ads PMax, which is almost like it's a predictive AI tool that is built on the data that you feed it, and it's supposed to improve. It could go either extremely well or it can go extremely bad, but it's still very much of a black box, and where you don't actually have much learning to take with. So therefore, in strategic thinking, also, you don't actually know what went down for you from going from A to B. You just prompted it to say, "I want to achieve this," and then you got almost the answer. I think we still need to learn to evolve.
Yeah, and I feel
Um,
like, for example, before getting to predictive AI, I'm gonna let you talk about the SEO aspect. I'm gonna make a quick note about the SEM. Me personally, I find AI very helpful for breaking keywords into ad groups, finding longer tail keywords, getting a list of negative keywords, getting ad variations that I might compare with what I currently have. Data analysis. I can plug in the Google reports and ask them to spot trends, right? So I can provide a very complex set of data and it does the analysis for me. So all in all, I've calculated that for me to set up an account, it takes 75% less time for an account of equal quality than when I set up the account fully on a manual approach. Because, the part that takes the time is not doing the keyword research, is organizing it. It is like doing that analysis, right? So to me, like from a mere time saving perspective, has made my team way more efficient, right? But I'm sure that from the SEO side point of view, you have found many ways to actually use it as well, right?
No, of course. I mean, I think everything from I wouldn't say from a actually the technical side of things, you can do a lot of the scanning in terms of actually discovering what could be fixed and how it could be fixed in a in better ways, and then also actionable ways. And because again, it won't different websites, again, low technical SEO is based on how your website is loading and sort of how scripts are loaded and imagery and so forth. And often you have a product team that owns the website. And then you have an SEO team that sort of sits on the website and sort of deals with other things. But in today's world, Web Vitals is something that is super important for you to rank high. And so from a technical aspect, yes, we've been able to sort of spot and discover areas that would, I think, were less obvious, say, a couple of years ago. To on page and similar. I mean, here we're talking. I mean, SEO and SEM or paid marketing isn't that different when it boils down to on page. And it boils down to making sure that you find the right keywords. That you get based on those, that you get topics that are relevant, so you can start creating topic clusters. And then, similar to creating ad copy, you need to write strong title tag and meta tags that sort of ensures that you get click-throughs without I'd say exaggerating the product, because then you'll have a low engagement rate, and you'll be penalized for that as well by Google, because you're clearly not being honest about what you're trying to sort of convey. So I think like it really sort of technical works really well. On page works really well. It really helps as well when you start looking into competitors. There are tools now in terms of, I'd say, the writing part, because copywriting is important. That will help you probably to 40%.
Yeah.
But today, in the eye of Google, to really rank well, but also to be liked by by your users, you should almost be an industry expert. So therefore, length of the copy is important, not repetitive, engaging is key. And AI can't do that today, especially not generative type of AI, and definitely not predictive. So you need that human touch.
Yeah, it just, let's say, it makes you like, given that SEO requires not only long content but a lot of content, because it's part of the algorithm from Google is fresh content that helps you find, as you said, find topics, maybe find different angle to cover a different topic. I think that's probably where it helps.
And you can also start seeing trends of potentially, I mean, SEO is very often not to write about what people are searching for today, but will be start searching for tomorrow. And so you're constantly sort of ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So considering it's a long game, and then you can also use it to generate strong backlinks. So by looking at your competitors, you can also start spotting high value backlinks and whom potentially you should approach to get those backlinks. So I mean, definitely, I mean, it can save you a ton of time.
No, I agree. And I think something where I've used it for is also for local SEO. Whenever, I have a Google My Business profile for some of the franchises I work on, I just feel that it does a good job at creating posts for, you know, need to put posts on Google to be able to also rank for other keywords. That's really helpful because sometimes, you know, you might have a way of saying things and you spend a lot of time looking at your post and getting an idea to say something better. Well, you can tell the AI, oh, by the way, can you give me a couple of ideas of saying the same thing differently? And all of a sudden you have suggestions. They're like, oh, I actually like the way this piece of the post is phrased.
But I think like that's what I meant. I think originally, I mean, by saying that I like using it because it works like a good brainstorm. When I mean doing what we do, you spend a lot of time either in a spreadsheet
Yeah.
in front of your screen, and it's not really something that you brainstorm. So it's a great sort of tool. By prompting it properly, you can start getting really good input that opens up additional dimension and sort of brain nodes. So you start thinking much wider and start seeing things in a lot more fascinating way, and therefore your output is much better.
And Alex, what's very interesting that gonna let us transition into a topic that I really like take inspiration from you for is the predictive AI, right? Many people still believe that AI, quote unquote, does the work for you, but that's not the case. Like I'm very passionate about AI in sports, for example, and in sports, the AI all it does is it does the analysis for you based on parameters and data you input. In marketing, it is the same thing. The starting point is data. Without data, you're not going to be able to do pretty much anything in terms of predictive. Now, predictive AI is nothing more, and correct me if I'm wrong, than what we used to do 5 years ago when we looked at data and we tried to make trends of what's going to happen in the future. And that took weeks to do, you know, it's like, because there is a human component, it's very much there.
I mean, it takes I mean, it takes time. It's normally very. It used to be very expensive to sort of to come to certain conclusions because you need to use models. So once you have all the data points, you need to use models to sort of run to run the data to see that there's no errors or that there's a small variation that you can rely on the data that you have in front of you. Um, and then when you have a model, you can then easily start putting more and more data into that, similar to sports. And therefore,
Yeah,
you can actually start predicting with a lot better margin how the future will look like.
yeah, and much faster, which means you get a first mover advantage, right? Because technically, if you don't use AI for predictive, you're gonna have a lot of opportunity cost to make the same move weeks later because it took you more time to make the decision, right?
I mean, we live in a world of where marketing you, has often been the biggest elephant in the room decides, and the biggest elephant in the room have this tendency of having a gut feel of what works and what doesn't work, um, and which is often something I don't like to buy. I like rather than to okay, let's test your idea, but we're also going to test this versus this idea to see
Yeah.
which statistically actually outperforms the one. So now we start breaking things down on experiments. So, but here all of a sudden, instead of almost requiring to do some of these unnecessary experiments, you can frog leap. Can you because you would be able to input this. For example, I've been experimenting with a tool that helps with banner creation and sort of depending on the purpose of the marketing banners, if it's awareness, consideration, or acquisition, how how the constellation and the designs of them should be.
Yeah.
Um, and and that's going back to the data points. This has been built around 120,000 studies with humans over the last 15 years. And so it has a lot of strong data points. And then sort of the more users they get to have, or more clients they start to have, the better they become, because
Yeah.
the better predictability they will get. So therefore, the creatives turn out to be extremely powerful when we start putting them on everything from LinkedIn to Meta to TikTok to Google. And the CTR goes through the roof. And then when you start combining it with sort of proper audience groups, you know, it this is magic. This is fun.
No, I agree. Like, I mean, there is a question here, Alex. Somebody's asking, is that can you give us an example of an AI, the last predictive analysis you did with AI? Like, what did you use it for?
Um, the absolute latest one was for a client. Often clients have design teams that so we don't actually design
Yeah.
because they have in-house design teams, and they like to have it that way because they're very strict in terms of how they are presenting themselves. Um, Often maybe not in the best way from a commercial standpoint, or depending on sort of the purpose. But with the help of these 120,000 sort of clinical studies that were done prior, based on the emotion that was awakened on these type of creatives, and to by running these creatives through this predicted AI tool, was able to sort of give direct feedback that by us shifting certain elements of the creative, we would actually have a lot better impact um, from a click-through rate standpoint, but also a brand recognition, and brand recognition, but also people remembering the brand, considering that we're targeting people more in the awareness consideration phase, which would then help strongly in the remarketing phase. And because now they remember the brand, but maybe not really exactly what we're doing. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they've been on our website, they've engaged, and then we serve them something that is more attractive and serves them well. So that improved. So we ran that as an experiment, and the CTR shot through the roof. This was again um, us really wanting to serve client by using data that maybe we should do this way, but instead of us getting ahead of ourselves, let's do a split test. So we did a split test, and the CTR and the conversion rates of the predicted AI set was much higher.
Oh, that's
So
good.
CTR and then conversion rate was much higher. So I mean, therefore, overall, the cost per dropped significantly compared to the other set.
Oh, it is interesting, and also, like, what makes me wonder is why does the Google Ads recommendation are always off topic when you write the ads, but then the AI are so good, right? Just a little poking to Google to give us better ad recommendation, I guess.
But the thing here is, yeah, I mean, if one were to defend them, they would then say that, the data that we fed them up until now is not strong enough, and therefore they don't give us suffice amount. And
They're gonna blame it on Apple with the iOS 14. They're just joking about Google a little bit there, but no, Alex, like what I think. The other day, I was working with a client, and I was like, I want to see what are the average ratings of other businesses in this space. And what I was interested in was some reviews and stuff like that. And I forgot that AI doesn't scrape the web. Or better, they do scrape the web, because where do they find the information? But if you ask the AI to give you the average ratings of some companies, it gives you a message that they cannot do that, right? So I'm really curious to see when the next step is gonna happen, because to me, let's say that I'm advertising a local restaurant, let's say a local Italian restaurant, and I want to see in my area, within a 5 mile radius from where I live, what are the list of Italian restaurants, their average ratings, and how many reviews they got. So I can say, okay, my client needs 300 reviews, 4.5 star. That's their goal, right? They need to work on that. Right now, it doesn't do that for you, but it has the capabilities to do that. It just doesn't do that.
I mean, have you tested some of the? I think there are a couple of thousand plugins now that you can use, that you can add to ChatGPT to sort of enhance some of the information.
Me personally, I'm using AI PRM. It's just, but usually, like it's when you whatever ChatGPT can do is what ChatGPT can do, right? The plugins can enhance it.
They enhance it, but they can also scrape they can scrape the web.
Oh, you see, that's good. Like, do you have anything you can recommend me and the listener?
I mean, I don't remember. So I mean, the last, I'd say, 3 weeks, I've been spending a lot more time sort of really digging into new tools, how to how I use the ChatGPT versus OpenAI's own API connector,
Yeah,
and sort of do API calls, which is a different type of sort of subset of how we work, and how I can sort of utilize that together with Zapier.
yeah.
Um, and this sort of boils down to some of the processes that may not require too much hand holding. They can be optimized. So I've been testing and playing around with this. So
And Alex, can you? I never tried it because I only have AI PRM installed on mine. Can you install more than one plugin on the same ChatGPT account?
of course.
Oh, that's good. Good to know. Yeah, because I think scraping is the next big thing with AI, because there is a lot of research that you can save yourself if they do the scraping.
No, of course. I mean, I've asked around a bit. So I mean, funny enough, and I think even though AI is such a hot topic in terms of headlines,
Yeah,
the more people I speak to, I mean, people are novice bases. There are very few that have actually really taken a big step into it. So I think, big headlines, getting all this, valuations are like going through the roof. It's like it's the companies to invest in 2023. No one else is getting money, but very few are actually using them. It has been sort of my sort of, at least in my circle, which is odd because they're often pretty far ahead and early adapters.
yeah.
I don't know how your experience has been, but yeah, it feels like ChatGPT is as far as people have sort of pushed themselves by now.
Yeah, I think like ChatGPT to me has been like, it's almost like an open AI, right? Where everybody can contribute, which is like many people are using it for very basic things, but they don't understand that there is a lot behind it that you can really take advantage of. That's one of the reasons as to the scraper, right? The scraper idea, where right now I believe there is a plugin called Scraper. Actually, that's the name of the plugin, but you need to give the URL of the page to be able to scrape something. So it doesn't really do proactive scraping, but and I think one of the reasons is probably that if everybody will start scraping, that probably half of the websites will shut down because they get too many, clicks or traffic. That's probably why they don't do the proactive scraping.
I
But
mean, isn't that what happened to Twitter? I mean, Twitter the other week, because all of a sudden AI was training too much of that. So there's been a lot. I mean, Reddit had the same problem where all of a sudden API calls started costing money. Um,
yeah,
I mean, there's some truth to it probably, because as you said, like generative AI still needs data input. but it creates something out of it, versus predictive, which also requires data models and data points to make, I would say, better predictions about the future. But they all require, both of them require data.
No, I agree, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this develop. But I do feel that the message that needs to come across is that ChatGPT and AI in general are gonna be a very good help, particularly with what happened with all the tracking drama in digital marketing. And for sure, you just need to be careful, but embracing it will definitely help your business, and it will help the customers too, because let's not forget, it's gonna take a whole different episode to see how AI could help customers, not businesses. But I'm sure there are a lot of advantages for customers as well.
I mean, for sure. But I think this omni-channel presence between wanting to step into a store nowadays versus digital, and like the crossovers. I think one shouldn't rely too much on bots that you believe has been trained suffice enough to be almost humans. I mean, you barely want to pick up your phone and speak to a bank now, because you'll be spending 2 hours being sort of pushed around by a bot because you're not saying something correctly. Um, I guess point that I wanting to say is that people value that human interaction and the experience often, and one shouldn't discredit that, and should put everything into efficiency.
Alex, I cannot agree more with that. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I needed to change my address with the IRS. You won't believe it, Alex. I tried 2 days to do that, right? The first day I was on hold for 6 hours. 6 hours, and the line dropped. I was so mad. The second day I was on hold for 4.5 hours, and finally somebody picked up. And all I needed to tell them is that this is my new address. Can you please update the file? Yes, the call took 2 minutes, but it took me a total of 10 hours to change my address. I was like, I wish there was a very nice machine where if I say one, doesn't understand nine, and if I say two, it doesn't understand six. That could do that for me, but
Well, I mean, I'm Swedish versus US. This, we have an app that sort of allows us to go in, and that would have been done in a minute.
yeah,
I just need to validate everything with my finger, and literally everything is done. There are certain things that could be done slightly different, but yeah, no, I hear you though, and I think like that is the what I think one of the key takeaways of not getting too deep into AI. I think people appreciate, especially the new generation, and or the new buying generation of Gen Z, that really wants to have human interactions as well, and value that from companies, and what they represent, not what their bots represent.
that is true. But Alex, I think we covered pretty much everything. I want to keep this episode short and sweet as always. We had a lot of listeners today. I think they were taking a lot of notes because we didn't get many questions, but I saw a lot of interactions here. But just so you guys know, please follow Alex on LinkedIn. Alex Macura, Macura. Alex is a brilliant mind when it comes to digital marketing. I've been knowing him for a long time, and we're still friends, so we get along. But he's very smart. And feel free to also listen to these episodes on YouTube, Spotify, the Digital Marketing Podcast. And we are going to announce shortly our next episode. We are still discussing the topic. There is a lot to talk about. But Alex, thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you so much. It's been fun as always. Have a good one, and have a good Friday.
Oh,
Your
yeah,
day
that's
is starting.
true. Tomorrow I'm going to go create a carpet by myself. It's a carpet course, so I will see how that goes. And
I mean, good luck creating that carpet.
I know.
I'm
I
gonna
see
be
how
glad. full on.
I'm gonna check
Have a
on
good
my
one.
Instagram the story, Alex. Bye bye, guys. Bye bye,
Yeah.
everyone.